last episode, we generated our app with relatively little effort. We used various generators for the data model and the RAP stack, which significantly increased development time. However, the real world only begins with customizing the application and defining our own use case. The standard RAP generator can only generate a single entity. However, our data model also includes a child entity. Therefore, we will extend our data model with another entity for the tags. Since we've already created the table with the generator, we can start defining the CoreData service directly. Right-clicking, the table starts the wizard and the table is automatically defined as a reference object. After entering the name and description, always make sure you're using the correct type for generation. Here we almost always define a view entity. After generation, we clean up the view and activate the object. Next, we need to establish the relationship in the data model. We will use small code snippets to help us define the relationship between the objects. From root to child, we need a composition and specify the other view in the definition. Then we assign a descriptive alias and propagate the association externally. At the child level, we define an association to parent to our root entity. After changing the alias and the link, we also specify the association in the field list. Then we can activate both views, thus defining the relationship at the lowest level. Now we can begin creating the CoreData service for the projection. Here you can start the interface view directly and create the new CoreData service by right-clicking. After assigning a name and description, we select the correct type from the template and create the view. At this level, we override the association from the interface and redirect to the appropriate CoreData service at the projection level. We perform the step on both levels and then activate the two views, thus connecting the projection. Now that we have extended the data model, we need to adjust the behavior so that the object can interact with each other and also know which relationship exists. You will also find an entry in the RAP generator that defines the relationship accordingly. We copy the code snippet to define another entity in the behavior. Now we need to adapt the components to our current data model. We replace the CoreData service and assign a descriptive alias. We also have our own table in the data model, as well as a new draft table. Here we assign the name, but we still need to generate the table later. In this case, we obtain the locking and permissions via the association from our root entity. We should set the key fields to read-only, as these should no longer be editable in the event of modifications. Next, we define the mapping from the CoreData service to the table so that the database is also populated during write operations. Before we can activate this behavior, we generate a draft table using QuickFix. This table is automatically created in the system and uses our data table as its basis. To enable us to create new tags later, we must define the association at the root level using create and then activate the object. We also need to perform the extension at the projection level. To do this, we define a new entity and the association in the root entity. Finally, we replace the placeholders with the actual object and relationships and can activate the object. Currently, there is only one entity in the service and the relationship is not visible in the service binding. Therefore, we also need to make the new entity in the service accessible. To do this, we extend the service definition, specify our entity, and finally activate the service. In today's episode, we focused on extending an existing data model. Last time, the generator provided us with a simple app, but not the complete data model. As of today, there is no automatic adjustment or wizard, which is why we have to perform the adjustments manually. So we are now at the end of this episode. Thanks for watching and see you next time.